All right. Hello and welcome to
Let's Go
with Harrison and Alivia. And we are going to talk about hiring, continue to talk about hiring, specifically different generations and what they're looking for according to some of their research in their
generation.
Yeah, but what are they looking for from their bosses? And what does respect mean to them in the different generations and that type of thing? So a lot of this Harrison will be familiar with, but this was a topic that I kind of took and ran with for today. So I'll be kind of sharing with him, and then we'll talk back and forth about how it hits us. And anybody that is watching this, we'd love for some of your feedback in the comments. Are you seeing this play out when you think about yourself and what you're looking for, or people that you work with, or people that work at your company?
Yep. I always found this topic really weird, just because we're all humans. You would think that it wouldn't be generational on how people react or what their expectations are, but I do see that is definitely a trend, especially as it applies to me, is the, I don't know if there should be a sickness for it, like real estate agent expectations whenever they get licensed, like they immediately should make big paychecks, and they should definitely have a $500,000 house and a luxury vehicle.
Sometimes I think what happens there, it's the expectations of people come into the industry because a lot of times they've been recruited in. And so people tell them all of the wonderful things and not the challenges. And because most people talk like that.
Well, you can't recruit with the bad, right? That's why I'm all for a recruiter.
Well, we also don't want to put limits on people, because there are people that come in the first year and they make amazing money. A lot of times what I tell people when we're setting expectations around that, I'm like, look, if you were a salesperson before coming into the industry, now you only have to learn real estate. You've already kind of have a book of business, because if you sold cars before something, you have people that, you've kind of got your database. Odds are you're going to, now it's not a guarantee, but odds are you're only having to learn real estate. So your first year is probably going to look way different and probably way better than somebody that comes into the industry their first year and they don't have the sales experience, because now they've got to learn sales and real estate.
Right.
So you have to know but when you get into real estate, it's starting a business. All businesses, right? The majority of them fail within the first 5 years. And that first year, you're just figuring it out. So you should be spending, 4 to 6 hours a day lead generating and 4 to 6 hours a day learning. And so, but yeah, I do think that people come into this business and they think, oh, this is going to be easy. I like looking at houses. Yeah. There's no such thing. I would love if you are in an easy business, let us know, because we'd be interested.
Yeah, I'm interested in partnering, buying, whatever. Yeah, and it's not necessarily just real estate. I'm using real estate because that's the thing that I know the most. But even in roofing sales, I can tell you that the conversion and fallout rate for salespeople in our roofing business is actually higher than that in our real estate business. And, I mean,
sales is an amazing thing, because you can make lots of money in it.
Tons.
And it is an extremely hard thing, because you don't know that you're going to get even if you work for a company, you feel like you're going to get a paycheck every week.
Yeah.
That's not actually true, because if the company falls apart, but it's that false sense of security. And so there are, and then with sales, you've got to be, people are going to say no. People are going to be like, why do you do that? Why, so there's a lot of emotional things that you have to deal with in sales that we don't necessarily think of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is so my mind just blanked so hard. The difference in like, hey, I'm getting a paycheck every week, and B, I'm getting to decide what I'm worth. And I don't think a lot of people grasp that. But more so what I meant, like when I started getting into this topic as it pertains to the topic you set forth today, and that's hiring and retaining based on their generation's expectations, is, I feel like to the millennial crowd, I feel like I do pretty well. That next generation, they lose me really hard. And it almost seems like a lot of them are not willing to make the investment for the success. They just assume that the success comes period. I think my favorite generation has actually, what's right before millennials? Gen X probably has been Gen X, because I still feel like there's some of that old school work ethic left in there.
Yeah.
We just brought on some people on the team, Belinda and Derek Forney.
Yeah.
Their numbers prior to THLT they were okay, right? Didn't know much about them. Had done a few deals with them. They were both very courteous people, very respectful, so I liked them. And then when they come in, like Derek's like, "Hey, what's the playbook?
Yeah.
What do I do? And if I do this, will I be successful?" I was like, "Hey, do this, you'll be successful." Never asked another question. He just got to work, and he's starting to reap the fruit of that labor. And I was like, okay, I like these people where they don't like. They're just willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
And I find that the younger generation, that we've had some realtors who were, 18 to 22, 23, which is a super tough age to get into a higher end sales ticket, because likely you don't own a house, and the person that you're selling to knows more about the process than you do, especially at first. And I've noticed that those people get discouraged and give up a lot easier. Even the ones who are like gung ho. I mean, we had a young man that came to us. I mean, this dude was like,
he actually did amazing. Like, if this is like, he had 6 transactions close within his first 6 months.
Yeah. And for a 21-year-old?
Yeah.
21-year-old?
Well, for anybody new to real estate, again, some numbers way higher than that, but some numbers are way low. Like you've talked about, you did 1 deal your first year. He did 6. I also think part of that though is you have to have the engagement of your family, of the people around you, because if they don't look at it, because you don't get a paycheck every week, right? If they don't look at it and go, wow, that's actually you're knocking it out. And if you continue to do that, it'll grow and grow and grow. Mm-hmm. And if the people around you don't see it that way, I think it's when you're 20, 21, it's harder to maybe look at somebody that's a different mindset and go, no, I'm gonna bet on myself, right? I think it's harder.
Yeah, and I think that was actually a lot of his problem was that his family wasn't letting him bet on him. Mm-hmm. He had money in the bank. He was making enough money to survive. And his first, a 21-year-old real estate agent, brand new to the business, no sales skills. And God did not give this man sales skills.
Well, so I remember when the first time I knew he was going to do well, because whenever I can always tell whenever I have somebody that's like, showing up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people show up and they go to the class.
And that's it.
And they go to the class. The first interaction that I had with this gentleman, I said, I gave him an assignment. Pull this together, send it to me. I didn't say nothing else. Mm-hmm. Didn't get him a time frame. I just 24 hours I had that, or 48 hours I had that in my email. I had like boom he just went and did it. And I think that right there was, he was willing to do it. So I think sales is something that you have, and I shouldn't say have to have the support of people around you, but if you are from, like, let's say that you're from a family of people that don't really do sales, they go to work 9 to 5, which again, there's
nothing wrong with that.
It's hard for them to see that you're taking a leap out on this business because we don't necessarily have the walls and things to that effect. But so today specifically, we're going to be talking about like generational leadership. So how do you lead somebody of different generations?
Oh, I thought it was about hiring. My bad.
Well, no, it's all part of the hiring piece, right? So the first I wanted to find, like when we look at generations, the concept of the generation is the people that you live with, whether you know them or not within your generation, like you grew up in a similar era. Right. So that you're surrounded by the same news, the same kind of social events, similar cultures, that type of thing. Same commercials on TV. So when we look at the generations who are currently in the workforce, we have the silent generation. Now, those are over 79, so we're not going to really talk about them.
I mean, they're literally almost silent.
Yes. Well, Biden and Trump. That they're silent, 79 and over. That's not the silent generation. Then you have the baby boomers. So those they're about 60 to 78. So if you're in that 60 to 78 years, you're a baby boomer. Generation X is that 44 to 59. Millennials are that 28 to 43. So like I'm 43, so I'm a millennial, but I've got that millennial Gen X.
Alex isn't a millennial.
No.
He's a Zer?
Gen Z, 12 to 27.
Oh.
And then you've got Generation Alpha, who has not entered the workforce. They're under 12. So a lot of the Gen X and millennials are raising the Gen Zs. So it makes sense.
I'm sending mean texts.
So if we look at the population right now, the breakdown, millennials is the largest in the workforce right now. So 35% of the workforce is millennials. Gen Xers are 33%, and then Gen Z is entering working some of them a little bit later than millennials and Gen Zs did.
I think that you'll see that those people they'll continue to have to work longer as the cost of living rises.
Well, but the Gen Z is entering the workplace a little bit later, so they're not
not kicking people out.
Yeah, because you have we'll go specifically into. I'm going to start with the baby boomers at 60 to 78. So something that I want you guys to think about, and I hadn't thought about generations like this, and I hadn't thought about baby boomers like this, but I have a whole new appreciation for baby boomers. So they're 60 to 78 years old. They lived through, because if you think about it, we think of baby boomers, well, let me say it. So civil rights movement, women's rights movement, disability rights movement.
Don't know that one.
Disability rights, like saying...
Like ADA compliancy and stuff like that? Yeah. But I just did... For some reason, they never taught us the movement. I didn't know it was a movement. I thought they were just like, hey, you got to be nice to everybody. And so it made doors a little wider and gave some ramps.
No, it was a big deal, right? Growing number of women were entering the workplace during this time. There are higher divorce rates, and they experienced the beginning of the hippie culture, and like higher divorce rates than the silent generation.
Yeah.
So the beginning of the hippie culture, the drug culture, and there was a huge growth in healthcare because of things like the polio vaccine. Their lives were longer and healthier than some of the generations before them because of advances in healthcare. Now, so I never thought about but you go and I go, because a lot of times we think of baby boomers as like, oh, they're so like, they're not cool, blah, blah, blah. And
no, it's my dad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like civil rights movement, like they lived through this. Like my mom, well, I won't go into all that, but I don't think about them as like in their younger days. They were kind of the radical. They were the people that the older generations were like, they just won't have a big equal. That's silly. I mean, that's my interpretation of what their people said about
such
them.
A different interpretation of that whole generation.
That's until then I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah. And I guess I hadn't really polled a lot of baby boomers. My dad is one, and so my dad's one of my idols in this world. And so just in our conversations, like, we talked about the civil rights and stuff like that, but it was never a big deal. Like, he just didn't make it to be a big deal. He was never taught to be racist. And,
but if you think about it, but it had to be a big deal. Like I remember, so my mom's 72.
Yeah.
I think her, in her high school was the first like segregated high school in Caldwell Parish.
Yeah.
And, no, that can't be right. That can't be right. Cause that was way too soon. No. Cause I know, and I don't know, we think about things. So like my brother Avery, he's 54, 55. He was born the year that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And I think we tend to, if we're not careful, we tend to think, oh, that was so long ago. No, it wasn't.
I'm not texting, I'm Googling.
Okay.
Do you really think I was sitting there texting?
No, I was waiting
I ignored 2 text messages. Well, you were talking.
So we look.
Schools in Louisiana began to desegregate in 1960 and 1970, but the process.
So like 1960, 1970, like legit. I was born in 82.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. My parents just didn't make it out to be a big deal.
Well, but you got to be careful about this because it wasn't that big a deal for white people.
Well, no, I mean like on the adverse reaction portion, it just wasn't okay to him. To him, it was just like, okay, well,
but it's also that's because when you grow, things. But also, I think that generation, they didn't make a big deal. Like you think about World War II vets, or not World War II vets, them too, but Vietnam vets and things like that. Like,
those guys don't talk about it though.
Yeah, but I think it's that generation of you just put your head down and work hard.
Yeah, I think we need more of those people.
I don't
Can y'all
know.
have some more of those people?
I don't know. I think put your head down and work hard could be good, but because they never talked about the mental toll on people and things like that.
Such a high suicide rate in veterans. Yeah.
So
I can see where that'd be different.
So now let's go back to baby boomers, 60 to 78. So their generation moved out of their parents' house about 18. They married by 20. They were the emergence of the strongest middle class. They had because of the GI Bill when they were growing up. They had analog phones, no seatbelts in cars.
Let's go. Drinking and driving was legal.
Yeah, generally very hardworking, motivated. They were motivated by pensions, perks, prestige in the workplace. They were the first generation of workaholics. And
do you think that's because things were like apparent at that point, like phones and cars? Like those were now a thing?
Well, they were, I think it was also like they weren't, well, I don't know. I think some of it, but I also think that they had been, you're talking about people, they had been raised after World War II. And like
their parents had lived through the Depression.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about my mom living through, so she legit remembers. And she's 75. She remembers that whenever her dresses were made out of feed bags for the animals, this was a thing. So they actually started making the feed bags for animals like checkered, red and white, so that people could buy them,
recycle them,
and recycle and make clothes with. So like my mom recycles everything.
We know.
Yes. Like literally. Oh my gosh. If you drive by my house, Yeah. But like I tend to she's like, well, don't throw that away. Or Sophie, they sent us a blanket for her, and it's an old electric blanket, but it's for her to, she lays on it. And Mama's like, well, maybe we should keep that over here because, if we ever go without electricity. I'm like, Mama, you moved into my house and we've got 15 boxes of blankets. We are never going to go cold.
Yeah.
But she doesn't like to let anything go because she's
gone without before.
Yeah. And when you think about it, and she had a pretty, she grew up poor, but she grew up in a time where she wasn't poor compared to other people.
Yeah.
And, but still, when you grow up and you're hand making your clothes, there's out of the feed bags, right?
And here I am, I could go hop on a plane today. And seriously, just go I grab my wallet and go like I am.
Yeah.
Because my wardrobe's very easy. I'll go pick up 2 pairs of jeans, 5 polos, and I'm good to go for months.
Well, that's when we went to Hawaii a few years ago. I think it's 2016. I took her to Hawaii. 2016, 2017. The brothers pitched in, but I went over there for work, and so I flew her. First time she'd been on a plane.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about this first time she'd been to the
Hawaii?
beach.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. When you do that, you instead of staying or teaching the whole time, you teach let's say, I think I taught on a Thursday, one session, stayed through the week, taught another session, flew out, and then another person flew in for the next 2 sessions. So we got to stay a week, and I got paid to go to Hawaii. Yeah.
All right, KW, I am, for this specific reason, for hire.
So they were the first generation of workaholics. They viewed it as work hard and you'll get ahead. That was very central in a boomer's belief system. They typically believe that other generations need to pay their dues. They may see younger generations as lacking work ethic or commitment. They are generally very independent and confident. My mom, again, I know I'm just going back to my mom, but she's 75 years old. And when I talk about being independent, she's got stage 4 cancer. Thankfully, knock on wood, she's doing okay.
She's had stage 4 cancer for 10 years, just to be clear.
8 years, that's right.
And she's kicking cancer's ass.
And so, but she'll go to the feed store, get feed, they put it in the back of her truck. She comes home. The whole reason I bought my place is because I could put her next door. Now she lives with me, but next door, so she could say, hey, come. And my brother said, hey, come grab this. I walk outside and she's got her wagon and a bucket and she opens it so it goes in the bucket because she's not going to ask for help. I'm like,
she's figured out how to lighten the load so that she can make the trips.
And but she's like very the first generation to reject traditional values. Now again, so we just talked about this. We never viewed them, but they did, because traditional values at that time were
get married, stay married, be straight.
Not only that, but it was that, the women's rights. Women's rights wasn't traditional at that time.
Yeah.
Civil rights, disability rights, other social movements. So I never viewed them as the disruptors that they are. I think that's a cool way for us to kind of step back and go, they were disruptors.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but outside of some of the rights things, like I think I identify as a boomer. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like a lot of what you just said, like the divorce rate went up.
Yeah.
I'm there. Okay. Like workaholic. I'm there. Like you head down, you earn what you get. Mm-hmm. I'm there. I do think everybody should have their own rights. So I'm not, you wouldn't have to fight me for that. What else?
Well, but that's the thing. So
they actually ushered it in.
They ushered it in. Like, and that was an uncomfortable thing.
Yeah. What else were they known for?
So civil rights, disability rights, other social movements. Now, they're goal and achievement oriented. They welcome exciting and challenging projects. I remember so they grew up with increased educational and financial opportunities, and many learn new skills even as they reach retirement age. So sometimes if we're not careful, we'll pick on boomers and be like, well, no, boomers are on social media. They like to learn. Now, they might not learn as fast as somebody that grew up with an iPad, right?
Pops is a death scroller.
Yeah.
That old man knocks out on Facebook. He likes everything I post.
They are competitive and equate work with self-worth and enjoy competing at the workplace. So if you're leading somebody in that 60 to 79 age group, are you treating them as such? Are you leading them as such? Or are you just right? So I just think I just thought it. So they do typically believe in an error. I can't ever say this word. That the top-down structure, like they prefer rank and prefer the person. Like they also prefer working in person versus working remotely. But like this is the boss. This is the the boss's boss, and you report to me and that type of thing. But that's how they. So, how do you motivate a baby boomer?
If I had to guess, give them tasks that they've earned so that they can see growth inside of their employment. Incentivize them with raises based on productivity rather than time served.
It could be, and sometimes I think too, like time served, if they, it could be like if you're promoting somebody over a baby boomer because of I would
quit if you promoted somebody based on time served over my performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have tons of friends who work at the mill, friends who work at the city, and it's all based on time served.
Yeah.
I will not work there.
Well, right, but a baby boomer may. Now, not always.
Well, my dad did. He was a machinist at the mill.
Because again, but it's also, I think some of that is, I think we do a disservice to people because they're like, well, I've been working here all this time. And I'm like, if nobody's ever told them that that they are not doing a good job, I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's also what that mentality breeds. Like when you talk to these guys, well, there's a specific person, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want his job to be in danger.
Yeah.
But he's like, look, I'm going to be on this machine until someone dies.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I am the best or the worst. When I put my bid in to go to the next place, they're going to look at everybody who did it, and it's going to be who was there the longest is who's getting the job.
Yeah. Well, in theory,
yeah.
If they're doing an amazing at their job, then it would have to be the longest. It doesn't really work that way.
Everybody was equal,
right.
and
that's right.
Like we've both managed people, we know that that's not true.
Right. Well, and so motivating and retaining baby boomers, communication. They want face-to-face. Now, again, keep in mind, like I'm talking the whole thing. Are there certain people that are different? 100%, right? So, but we're just talking generation. They prefer face-to-face communication. They want to be treated as an equal. Well, that's, how they want to be communicated with. When they look at supervision, again, the hierarchy. Hierarchy. Thank you. So, who do they report to? That type of thing. Do not micromanage. They're not a fan. And which that repeats all over and over for the different generations. And then how do you value them? Acknowledge the hard work. Leverage their knowledge and experience, and offer opportunities for them to lead tasks. Don't write them off just because they're older. Let them have opportunities. So they want to be mentors. They want to share their expertise. They may be motivated by titles, promotions, acknowledgement, and opportunity. They may value opportunities to update and learn new skills at their speed. Okay. But I would almost underline the respected, acknowledged, and praised. I do think that's a big deal when you're, 70, 65. Just because somebody may not do something as fast tech-wise, be careful not to make everything, write off everything that they do know because of something that, something like that. So now, let's talk Gen Xers. So Gen Xers, these people are 44 to 59. So that means they were born between 1964 and 1980. So they experienced Roe versus Wade, Watergate, the Rodney King riots, Columbine shootings, the AIDS epidemic, the dot-com boom in the 90s and early 2000s. Now, they're also the smallest generation, maybe because birth control pill was introduced in the 60s, and there was a declining birth rate. Now, on the inverse, the other way their generation has grown was it was an increased immigration rate. So Generation X is actually ethnically and culturally diverse. They grew up with cable television, personal computers. It was the very early stages of the internet. These were the kids that they came home when the street lights came on, and a lot of them were latchkey kids, meaning both parents were working outside of the house. They left home. They were left home to their own devices in the afternoon. Now, more divorced parents than the generation before them. They had the punk and grunge music. They're typically the highly educated. 29% obtained a bachelor's degree, which is 6% more than the baby boomer generation.
So I feel like that's super high.
They value workplace flexibility. So again, if you're in this, you're 44 to 59, does this fit you? Do you value workplace flexibility? And now this is the interesting, almost a quarter have been with the same employer for 15 plus years.
That's going to be a big difference when you get to millennials.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Yeah. They prefer a more casual supervision style from a boss who invests in them personally. So I think about Amanda, Amy. That's right. They're right there at that 45. They're going to get Melinda.
That would be
44 to 59.
Is Belinda
and Derek are in that age.
I can because I have such a close relationship with Amy and Amanda. I can speak to this publicly. But if I don't call them and check on them and talk to them in the week, there will be repercussions for me the following week.
So this is remember we had a couple weeks ago, we had that conversation about communication.
Yeah.
So they're on that cusp, right? They're Gen X, but they're 45, right? Just like I'm a millennial.
Like Amanda's an old soul though. If she's on that border year, because she's not 44, she's 41.
41?
Yeah.
Oh, so Amanda's okay. You're right. Yeah. So she's a millennial.
She's technically a millennial, but I'm going to say that she operates largely like that. She's loyal to a fault. She will stay somewhere for a long time.
Well, that's because because if you think about it, it's that they actually call them the people like her and me.
Flex years.
They're those Gen X / millennial, right? Because we're right there on the cusp of both.
Yeah, but I think it probably has a lot to do with how your parents raised you, which she's from Mangum, low and slow, old school, traditional values.
Yeah, we're very much on that cusp of more like, so this is the interesting thing. So the work-life balance is key to Gen X, meaning independent, which both of the ladies we just mentioned, very independent. They are the product of work-centric parents. And if you talk to, and really, if you talk to Amanda, like she talks about how hard her parents work.
Both parents work very hard.
So work-centric parents. Many have baby boomer parents, both do, and they want to build a repertoire of skills that they can take with them if they did go to a different job. Like Amanda and Amy both, like, which I guess so. Amanda's actually younger than me, but
I pulled them both out of legal into real estate.
Yeah, and they both know a lot about everything, right? Like that's now this is interesting. Gen X really skeptical. I think about my brothers. I didn't realize like their skeptics come from that, but think about it. They grew up in a time of financial uncertainty in the 80s. And then they were young adults or older adults during the housing crisis of 2009. They can be critical of being taken advantage of. Compared to previous generation, Gen X wants to work to live versus live to work. Now, like Amy is a hard worker, but she wants to.
She wants to live.
She wants to live. She wants to go see her daughter at the game. Like she's not gonna, that's.
Yeah,
so
she's not putting in the 80, 90-hour weeks, but she puts in a hard-ass 40 to 50 pretty much every week.
100%. Yeah. And they want balance now, not when they retire.
Yeah.
They don't want to miss the time with their children. Probably because if you think about it, the baby boomers did.
Yeah. So they have PTSD from how they were raised.
And it's not even bad or good. It's just what's so, right? Like we learn, and they enjoy informality and humor in the workplace. They want immediate and honest feedback. Immediate. Okay. So that's why you talk about, like, I talk to them all the time. They are pretty tech savvy, very comfortable with new and changing technology. So how do we inspire and motivate Gen X? Communication, less formal, casual communication. Allow them time to figure out independently and then process solutions. That's how they want to be, communicated with typically. Supervision. Care about their personal goals and ambitions. And this is where I think you have done an amazing job with Gen Xers and Millennials, and we'll talk about the other ones as well. But it's that you got to care about their personal goals and ambitions.
Yeah, that's probably just my strong suit, period.
You're also in that.
I do care about how well people do. Like, if you can't feed your family, I'm going to fire you because I want you to feed your family.
Yeah, like he doesn't. I don't want you to fail on my watch.
Yeah, no, what's that say about me?
Yeah. Seek fun and innovation supervisors who trust them and value their independence. And then valuing them, create opportunities for advancement, reward them with free time and flexible schedules, create a diverse staff team and environment.
Yep.
Okay.
I've always, this is going to sound so bad, but you talk about like opportunities for advancement or investment or whatever. And one of the things I like to do, especially with our top producers or our people who I like, they're making great money and they're following a great financial system in their own lives, is I want to go into debt with them. And because you learn a lot about people when you're in debt with them. Like, me and Chris Rux have a project together right now, got a little bit of debt together. And he's actually like, I was surprised. Like I expected him to freak out just a little bit. But he is just bull by the horns. Let's get this. Let's get it sold. Let's roll. And we'll move on to the next one. And that was great. I was expecting a little bit more of a freak out behavior. Sam Nelson, me and him got some debt together and it's going great. Me and Amanda have a lot of debt together, for millions. It just takes your relationship to the next level whenever you're actually affecting each other's not paychecks, but like your literal net worth.
Yeah.
So, but that's I like that.
Yeah. But that's why I think that's one of the things when I was going through this and I was like, okay, that's leads to one of the reasons that I think you've been successful is because of that mindset. Okay, so now let's talk about millennials. These were born from 1981 to 2000, so they're between 28 and 43. Okay? They grew up in the rise of social media and smartphones. We experienced the war in Iraq. Typically, it's a huge amount of college debt in this generation. Now, and then depending on where they fall, the housing crisis of 2009, I'd got my real estate, my license that year, so I was in my 24, 5, something like that. Online dating has become the norm. I remember when it first, it's weird, but I remember when it first, like, it was like, you didn't tell people that's where you met, but now it's very the norm.
People still don't openly tell until they're like married. And you're like, hey, where'd you guys meet? And they're like, plenty of fish.
Yeah.
Only farmers.
Yeah. Now, this is an increase in school and mass shootings as they were growing up.
Yeah.
We did. Like, I remember lots of school shootings. And then saw the first African-American president. As employees, generally open-minded and collaborators and aspire genuinely to enjoy their job and the people they work with. They're tech savvy. They tend to rely on digital means of communication and are less likely to stay in their same job longer than 3 years. So we have Gen Xers that are 15, on average, not on average, but like a quarter of them have been in their job 15 years or longer. And then millennials is, about 3 years.
Yeah. So is there a wealth statistic between millennials and Gen Xers?
Well, I would say...
So I have a theory. I just want to know if it's right or not.
Well, so we're going to talk a little bit about why do the millennials exit the jobs. I don't know the answer to that because I think there's such a disparity between somebody that's 27 and 40 and 45, right? So we don't have those numbers yet.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Because we haven't seen what their actual average net worth is at 60 or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, so this is the main reason that millennials will exit jobs is poor work environment and culture. I think this is because if you think about it, like baby boomers, even if somebody treated them horribly, like they would just be like, oh, but it'll get better. We're going to stay here. Now, again, not all of them, but that was kind of like you were taught, you stayed at your job, right?
Yeah.
And I think, most millennials, they either have Gen X parents who had boomer parents or they have boomer parents, right? And they've lived that life and they're like, you're not going to bully me. I'm not going to stay in a place where you treat me like crap.
Yeah.
Just because I'm supposed to, right? That's my take on it. So, because a lot of times they will leave a job and sometimes they can't really tell why. They're just like, the vibes were off, or it's just like, I can't, but I didn't like the way I felt there. So if there's a lack of support or mentoring, they will leave a job. Incompatible management style. Because a lot of times let's say they're being managed by a boomer who they like, tell me out with that word again.
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy. And they're talking to a millennial like their bosses used to talk to them. It ain't going to fly.
It's not going to work.
They're going to be like, all right, peace. You'll see me never.
Mm-hmm. Quite literally, like they're going to say, I'm going to the bathroom, and then they're just getting in their car and they're out.
Yeah. So they will also leave a job if there's lack of support or I said that. Lack of compensation or benefits or no clear path for promotion. They also really, really want a good work-life balance. They will leave a job for lack of diversity. Now, this is the interesting thing. They want feedback for what they're doing. Constant feedback is huge. So, one-on-ones are a millennial's love language. They want to know how they're doing. In the moment, all the time. They want a variety of tasks and expect to finish all of them. They're very motivated. They seek challenges and don't want to be bored. They want informal leadership and leaders who will draw out and respect their ideas. They also want leaders who will give them trust and loyalty, and they need to see where their career is going and a clear path to get there. They're going to work to live and enjoy life, that work-life balance. They are not interested in the traditional
hierarchy.
Thank you. And they expect transparency in organizations. They want to contribute freely. They are connected by worldwide technology. They see solutions in the form of tech and prefer to communicate through technology. A lot of millennials will say, like, text me. Like, I don't want to talk on the phone. Text me, email me,
Taylor Woods.
How old is Taylor?
Huh?
How old is Taylor?
She's younger. Oh, no. A class of the 08 or 09. So she's a few years younger than me. So somewhere between 30 and 33, probably.
So your bigger picture and theirs will need to be in alignment. So if you are leading a millennial, find out what their big picture is. Mm-hmm. It's got to be in alignment.
Yep.
And if it's not, that's okay. Help them find some place that is in alignment. And then consider with the millennial feedback loops of what's working and not working is huge. Don't wait for 3 months, 6 months until they review to tell them this is works and this isn't. Have the conversations. Communicate openly and friendly. So Gen Z, that's 26 and under. So they are the emerging workforce. They are defined by COVID, Fortnite, roadblocks. K-pop was their, music. We
had Incubus.
They have more experiences with diversity and inclusivity than any other generation. They are typically well educated on politics, race, religion, and they're very similar to millennials, interesting enough. So practical strategies for working. We won't actually, I'm not going to go into a lot because 26 and under, they're the emerging workforce. We don't know how that's going to work, what that's going to look like.
Mm-hmm. I have a case study right now.
Yeah.
Working on it.
Yeah.
I'm grooming a kid, not negatively. Not in
He's a
not in the Diddy style.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
So how old is Jade?
Trainer?
Uh-huh.
Oh, Jade would be in her late 20s.
Okay. So this makes sense because I remember, so whenever she started working with, and that's what, when people tell me people in their 20s don't work, I'm like, no.
No, Jade
is a workhorse.
Jade can work, homie.
And now she wants to have fun. She wants to be able to be with her kids, all that thing, right?
But I can call, she's on vacation right now. And I promise you, if I call her, not only will she answer, if I ask her to do something, she won't complain. Yeah. She'll do it. And I won't hear anything else about it.
Well, and that's the difference. But she's in an environment that appreciates her. And, but she, like, when you talk about communication all the time, I remember whenever I first, because when I first hired her, she first started working with me, I told her up front, I said, look, there are going to be times words mean a whole lot to me and words matter and how we're perceived. I said, there are going to be times when you're going to say something and I'm going to, like, I'm not going to do it in front of people, but I'm going to say, hey, say it this way next time. And I said, look, I'm not fussing at you. We're learning together. Right. And she had took that and she has run with it. Like I can literally, and again, it's not that I don't even know that I would have to do it anymore. I mean, she's freaking awesome. But part of that is because she's very open to constant feedback. Yeah. Like, and she'll do the same. Like when there's a problem, she'll communicate it. So anybody that says like these people that are in their 20s, I'm going to go, wait a minute. It's not their job to, like, it's our job to meet them where they're at and make sure that
as a
we're
leader,
in
the answer is yes. As a society, they don't give a
Yeah.
Yeah, society does not care about your needs for affirmative or words of affirmation.
Well, but what I'm saying, but that's the whole thing is like you can't look at a whole generation and say blah, blah, because there's so many 26, 27, 30-year-olds that I'm
there's
they're
variance.
badasses.
Yeah, there's variance in every single one of those. Like, Jade does not have the work ethic of a typical millennial. Or Gen Z or
I don't know if that's accurate.
And we're going to have to agree to disagree on that.
Now, well, with that said, is not everybody's right for your organization. Not everybody's right for everybody's organization. But there are absolutely other people like Jade out there in that same age group.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's variance out there. Like, I mean, my little brother is 26 years old. He's 26. Yes, he's 26. Dude he's a worker. Like that dude will go work. He grinds day in, day out. Now, I will argue he grinds differently than me because he does some more blue collar stuff than I do, but he does it for less hours per week.
Yeah.
So like a big week for Jake's probably 60. Big week for me, maybe 90 to 100, but I'm also not out in the hot sun. So wear and tear is a little different.
That's right. And so that's the whole thing is like find out. And I think we all have to think that the biggest thing is instead of always trying to look for our differences,
look for synergy.
Look for synergy. Look for things. So like when you look at somebody, again, make sure as leaders we're adapting. So it's kind of like the conversation that we had a week before last, that dropped last week. And we talked about, what are you focusing on? And if all we're doing is complaining about the people, like I can always tell when people hit the next age gap because it's like, people used to always give crap to millennials, right? And y'all suck pretty much. And then Millennials now are doing that to the generation behind them. And I'm like,
lazy sacks of shit.
Yeah. And I'm like, really? Come on. It has not, so it's just so instead of like us tearing each other down, like, let's find out, like,
how do we communicate?
And what's the value they bring to that because of that?
Yeah.
So let's say that you have a boomer in your organization. Team them up with a millennial. Let them teach each other so there are fresh perspectives from the younger and wisdom from the older. Accommodate different learning styles. Boomers, maybe they prefer PowerPoints, while the younger team might prefer, interactive technology. The flexible work arrangements. Now again, every job can't do this, but for, Gen Xers, millennials, and below, offer different working options like telecommuting, working off-site, focus on the results they produce versus how they actually get it done. Giving them flexibility while maintaining a consistent success measurement. Keep going back to feedback often and consistently with one-on-ones. Create recognition programs. And then, of course, we won't always want to assume that it's generational. And that kind of goes back to, don't just because they're a generation behind you, oh, they're immature, oh, they're lazy, oh, no, it's different. And because of the different generation, we tend to think this or that, but it's just because we're looking at it maybe a little differently, or they value things that maybe they didn't get from, their boomer parents, missed all of their. I remember my dad, like my mom, she made sure growing up that I got to play in sports. And it was a big deal, but she didn't come to games because it wasn't like, now she was, with that said, at that point, like she ended up being like a, single mom or whatever. But I do remember my dad like fussing and being like, we don't always have to be gone to play softball or whatever. So now, their kids are, I don't have kids, but I'm always very involved in my nephew's life. My brothers, they go to their kids' baseball games. They, they coach their sports and all this. And so it's, they're doing something because of maybe what they didn't get. Let's see. So if you find yourself thinking that you can't hire people who want to work from the new generation or Generation Z or millennials, they're the farthest thing from lazy. It may look different. So just like what you mentioned about Jade, Jade does not want to come to the office at 8 and work till 8 at the office. But
we don't make her.
That's right. Yeah. But that's what works. But she will come in, work, go home, and work at night. Like, that's something that works because then she gets that time with her kids. So, and I'm using her as an example, but so just because somebody doesn't want to be in the office every day from 9 to 5 doesn't mean they're lazy. But a lot of them will do it.
But I feel like because we have in our office, we've got all the way from Generation X down to Z as far as paid staff, right? And what I have noticed, and again, this does not work for every business, but this has worked really well for mine. So all of our paid staff have laptops that we pay for them. We do not ask them to take them home. We do not ask them to take them on their vacations. We do not ask them to take them on their weekends. We do not ask them to take them on their sick days. But you know what I'd never have to ask is, did they?
Yeah.
We do not. We have office hours. We do not have a set amount of sick days. We do not have a set amount of vacation days. Quite frankly, I don't give a shit. If your job is done and your team can back you while you're out and no one's mad and everybody's happy, I'm not asking any questions. That's Amy's job to police that. But you know what? I may have to answer one question around that topic per year. And otherwise, it's great. Jade went on vacation this week. I had no clue. She didn't come to work Friday. She discussed it with Amy, which is fine. Don't care. Jade's job was covered. Amy, her daughter, is in competition cheer. Amy is probably off 6, 7, 8, 9 Thursday through Mondays a year, not including vacations or sick days. Her job is always covered. Her laptop is always with her. And Jade had COVID or the flu here a few months ago. She came to the office when nobody was there, sprayed behind her, make sure nobody else got sick, came and got her laptop so that she could work from home. No one asked her to. And I think when you offer up that culture, like, hey, you're going to be judged based on your productivity, not your sitting your ass in your chair from 9 to 5. It gives them ownership of position, I believe.
That's right.
And they don't have handcuffs on them.
Yep. Well, so they don't have handcuffs. And also the flip side too, like let's say that, because I've also seen this, let's say that they are insistent on doing their work, but they're sick. I've also seen y'all go, no, stay home, get in bed. Somebody else will do that thing, right? Because I think that's where sometimes if you have a leader that doesn't think this way and you're not in alignment, sometimes a leader can take advantage of that, where they'll say, like, I like you have the unlimited vacation. What you're seeing in larger corporations that say that, people are actually taking less vacations, but to their detriment, because it's almost like the bosses say that, but they don't really let them, right?
Oh yeah, no, we mean it to the fullest extent. We mean it,
and I think that's the biggest thing is is it a legit thing?
Yeah. So Connor's here.
Yeah.
Connor, have you, outside of a Wednesday, because we need you on Wednesdays, like that's that one day a week that we have to have you. Have you ever asked off or have you ever said, hey, I'm going to be out, and they were like, hey, no, we need you to stay? Has it ever happened?
I mean, it's pretty much just figure out when to make it work.
Yeah, as long as your role is complete, then everything's good, right?
Yeah.
Whatever I need to beforehand.
Yeah. Which, when Connor's good about that, like we're recording on a Sunday right now. Connor absolutely does not have to be here. He chooses to be here. Yeah. So we appreciate you. Thank you.
That's right. Probably the reason this is being recorded because we have done one without Connor, and we were both like, "That's awesome." Oh, we actually
had a good episode. It was a good episode.
Yeah, you never hit record.
Yeah.
So make sure that when you're leading, that first off, you're looking for the motivated. No matter what generation, you're looking for the motivated for your business, right? And then, like you said, there are times when like, hey, you have to be here because this is, the job or whatever. But the more flexibility you can have and let them do their work, the more you're going to win with Gen Xers and Millennials.
A great book on that is 4 Hour Work.
4 Hour?
4 Hour Work Week.
Did you finally read that?
I'm not done with it, but me personally, not getting a ton out of the book, but I am, a lot of the stuff that he's talking about is all solved with AI, which I'm already using. But the entire book is just about how to cut the crap and have time-saving hacks throughout your business life. Time blocking in your schedule, using technology to transcribe, protecting your time and making your dollar per hour as high. The other cool thing about it is obviously that, and it was in the book today as I was walking, and he said, I'm being paid in dollars. I pay rent in pesos and I pay my labor in rupees. And he goes, I'm just my dollar per hour is ridiculously high. And because of the conversion of US dollars to pesos, my money goes further. And because of the US dollar to rupees and the conversion of that, it may not be that way anymore, I have so much more buying power in the market. And so that's a really cool thing. And we do utilize some of that in our business. I try to keep as much US-based labor as possible because one of my personal missions is, helping local and bringing jobs worth having to the community. But it is necessary. We have a VA, and she does a wonderful job, and she does tasks that other people wouldn't do for me, no matter how much I paid them, but I wouldn't be paying a ridiculous amount for that. Yeah. Shout out Micah, you're awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of there's a lot more you can go into with the generational thing, and yet Harrison and I talked about like we wanted to kind of get a
Connor, just change the USB out. You're supposed to be the tech guy, bro. Just don't take my charger. Everybody steals my chargers.
So this is Harrison and I have been talking about making or coming with kind of a topic sometimes we'll talk. Sometimes we're going to come with a topic to kind of share and teach one another. Let me teach you guys, see what you guys think. And so today we just kind of focused on leadership and like.
Yeah, so it's going to be, we're going to do a little bit more of a 3 points in a sermon kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like that format. I think there's a reason that some of the best speakers in the world go to that format, motivational speakers, pastors, etc. And so we're going to do a little bit more organized speaking moving forward. Today was actually a little impromptu. It will be a little bit more polished moving forward. We're going to pick out some topics, and then we'll designate who the speaker is going to be, who has to study, and then who's going to be the commentator.
That's right.
So
yeah, this is from a class that some notes I'd taken for a class I'd learned, and then I had taught this at the local chamber. Something that I do want to say, this is the other thing, is the more that we all learning is key, right? But the class that I was in, they said this, and the instructor said this, and I was like, I think the instructor said it or whatever, but I was like, that is so key. So you know how like kids these days, they're still doing fundraisers at school, and
the fundraisers are toxic these days.
Well, so this is
my kids playing cheerleading or golf or whatever. We're having a calendar fundraiser.
Yeah.
Pick the day and then hand us money.
Well, so actually,
What's your kid doing? Nothing. I don't want to do this.
Well, so this is the interesting thing, though. So, like, as a millennial, because this is the thing, I remember selling chocolate bars.
Yeah.
And
sales skills. I like them.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Like, but our parents sent us out. They'd have to go with us. Nobody's sending out, elementary kids these days to go sell door to door. So the parents are having to do it, and they don't.
Oh, they'll get diddied.
That's right. If you do, so if you're a school and you want more money, my recommendation, especially if you got millennial and you are, right? Most of your parents are going to be millennial, Gen Xers. Say, look, you can do one of two things. You can cut us a check for this amount, and we don't have to do any of these things this year. Yeah. I promise you will get more money, more participation, more checks, because the parents are going to be like, I'd 100% rather write a check.
The ones who have the ability are going to cut the check.
Things for the kids. And the ones that don't have the ability, they're not selling things anyways, usually.
Yeah. Sam Nelson literally comes to me every year with West Monroe football cards.
Yeah.
And he's like, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. He passes them out. And I'm like, what? He goes, I am not selling this stuff.
Yeah, you just cut a check, right?
Yeah, he writes the check and he hands out cards to his friends.
And I'm telling you, the teachers would be better off. You'd still get the money, but then create other. I do think that kids doing the sales project, I think that's very beneficial.
Oh, I made Addison. I didn't do it for her.
Yeah, but do that through other venues or, things to that effect. So that's kind of my soapbox on it. Okay, so that is what we were going to cover today. We covered it. We could wrap, but a lot of this, as I was looking at this in your organization, I look at it and I look at it, these are why I think that, or I see how you've, I don't know if naturally or if you're in that age group and you've always learning. I think that's one of the reasons that you do have staff that are there for a long time. Mm-hmm. Is there anything based on what you, picked up today that you might do differently, or just maybe a different understanding when you look at it through the lens of, a generational thing?
Yeah. I think I accidentally got some of this right. And I also think it's because a lot of my work ethic came from that baby boomer generation. Mm-hmm. And so I see a lot of those characteristics in me. And that's because that's who I was nurtured by, nurture over nature all day long, on people's habits and their activities. So, because my dad is that baby boomer, blue collar, get your personal self-worth from how much you work and how effective you are. And that's how I teach and coach. Like, if you're not being productive, quite frankly, I don't want you around me.
Well, yes, but at the same time, we do look at, I think, self-worth different than maybe a baby boomer. Mm-hmm. Because, and again, we're not lumping them all together, but we've talked about this before. It's, I want to, for you, I want to make a lot of money, but not to the, but you're also not going to be put in a position where, okay, I made a lot of money, but I never got to see Clayton, or I never got to see.
I'm better about it now, but that's the reason I'm 35 and single, is because work does come first. Mm-hmm. And so, yes,
But you also play. You do not work. And when I say this, I'm not saying like you work a lot. But if you don't, if you looked at, like the way, a boomer would have been, you will go work and you'll go do this.
I play and work at the same time.
A boomer might have been in the office from 8 to 8 and never went home, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the difference.
Well, I don't have to do that anymore. So I did for probably the first 4 years of this business. Yes, it was, my work looked totally different. I was locked down in a dungeon, writing scripts, studying, practicing, listening to podcasts. Like it's a beautiful day outside. Do you know what I'm doing when I leave here? I don't know if I'm going to the river or to Caney, but I'm probably about to hook up my jet skis and I'm going to go listen to, I've already done a 30-minute walk. I've already done a 30-minute hot tub. I've already done my entire morning routine. I've already listened to books today. Probably about to go throw on a podcast or another book and go ride by myself because that sounds fun.
Yeah.
But I'm working technically.
Yeah, but that's the difference.
How I work these days.
100%. And I think that's the thing with like boomer, because again, the boomers didn't have the tech that we have, right? Yeah. But if somebody said to you today, you have to go in the office, do all the things that you said, but you have to do that from an office from 8 to 5. You're going to be like, that's my work for myself, dude. I ain't doing that.
Well, so I just don't believe that in general, though.
Yeah.
I do
because
like people
of in different generation.
Yeah.
Or not. That's not the only reason I'm not saying that, but
if you hire accountable people, so it's not even generational for me. It's if you hire accountable, high performing people, then you don't care where they are.
That's right. That's right. I said that a lot. Like when you're looking at, like I had somebody recently that I coached, they had to let somebody go. And they were telling me some of the things. And I said, hold on. I said, and they were like, should I address this with this person? I said, hold on. I said, let me ask you this. If they were knocking your socks off, but they also kept their phone beside them all the time texting, would you care? Hadn't thought about that. I said, if you start noticing all those penny things they're doing, it's because they're not doing their job.
That's correct.
So the moment I have to start policing things, that's like, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to like, but that's not, so if we have to start, so, I would say for those of you that are watching this, like if you are having to create rules for your employees, there's something, maybe it's your leadership, maybe it's your communication, but stop doing that.
Yeah.
There's something broken, but if you're having
choose what your office is going to be like, I just decided to.
And when I mean rules, I'm just like when you have to get real petty. Like, are you here at 8:00?
Well, that's the corporate structure, though.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 16, which I've always had the same work ethic. I just didn't have a choice. It was either you worked or you got beat. So I had a job at Brookshire's pushing buggies. The GM, what's her name? I can see her face. Anyway, I don't know. There's a store on Desert Street in Lakeshore. And what is her name? Whatever. So I go in for my annual review to get my raise, and I only got like 40% of the raise. And it was because I clocked in at like 1 minute late one day. She goes, well, you were late this many days, and it was one day. I was like, Are you serious? And I was like, what about all the days where I clocked in 15 minutes early and got to work, or that you guys called me and I showed up? And I said, and I was here. I was just talking to Mr. Tommy, who was the assistant store director. And I was talking to Mr. Tommy, and like that was the reason I was late. She goes, but her job is to protect the company dollar.
Well, but did she? Because how long were you there after that?
Oh, I was gone.
Yeah,
I left immediately.
So sometimes we can step over dimes to get, or step over dollars to get to nickels.
I actually took a
of
pay
that.
decrease.
Yes,
but that was completely different because the new job aligned with what my goals were at the time.
And then what did we talk about with millennials? The values must line up, and don't micromanage us.
Yeah.
So like she lost with you because it's kind of the same thing. If everything else would have, I'm not saying you still may have taken the other job, but there's a definite killer. And when they hadn't had that conversation with you the day it happened, right?
Well,
like
I knew I was upset, and so I went next door to Anytime Fitness where Amy Green was, and I'd already been working out there, and her and Jordy were there, and I told them how that went, and I was like, man, I just don't get it. Like, I show up early, I stay late. Every time they call, I show up. I was like really disappointed, and they're like, hey, we're actually hiring. We're hiring over here, and we see how you work out there.
So that's so if you're, so it's one of those things. Are you looking for reasons for your employees to be able to win? Are you helping create and environment. And that doesn't mean if they're not showing up on time, I'm going to have that conversation, obviously. And yet, like, are you, one time you were late, but all these other times you came in early, you did this, we love everything else. Like, are you really, like, so that's where you've got to really, you know, look at what's important to the person and how are you showing up as a leader? Because I do think that's huge. A lot of times, people that complain about not being able to find people to work or not be able to keep people, you got to look at yourself first. It might be you.
Ben Kinney says, look around your organization and I will judge you as a leader based on the person who has been with you the longest. So if you've had a 15-year organization and you go, all right, who's been with you the longest? I want to interview them. And they go, well, here's John.
He's been with me for 3 months.
Yeah. And they're like, 3 months, even a year or two, right? A 15-year organization, right? So we're in a 9-year organization, and I think there's a lot of brand new people in the organization. So I'm just not going to count them in this, but I would say for long-term people that we've had with us, I'd say the number is 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And
the majority,
most of them have been here 6 to 7.5 years.
Yeah.
You know, and then of course our brand new people have been with us for less than a year.
That's just because we just hired them.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Like, are you, now again, that doesn't mean you keep somebody just because they've been there. Like, we're not advocating that either. But what we're saying is because I remember, like, one of the reasons that I started coaching people around hiring and keeping people is because I was terrible at it when I first started. Like, my old boss, we had a conversation because I legit, we would just be like, I was an idiot. And she finally was like, you know, we keep calling them idiots. Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's us. And so we went about it a different way. And then all of a sudden, different things started showing up. So, because it's one of those things, as long as, like, where's the responsibility? If I'm saying, they all suck, what I'm doing is I'm copping out and saying, like, well, I didn't have no choice, right? So I'm being a victim. Where when I say, wait a minute, what can I do better? Who can I become? It doesn't mean you're going to hire, everybody's going to stay with you forever, but you're going to look at things differently. You're going to do things differently, and you're going to find them motivated and work with them. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just be, do, have is all that is. Like, who do I need to be? In order what
to
do I need
the things that I need to do so that I
don't
achieve.
say it that way, but I say, and what do I need to do to have the life that I want to have? And a lot of times, though, people do it backwards, right? Yeah,
they do like,
do have be.
If I do these things, then I'll have this, and then I'll be happy.
Right. The
you
B.
Gotta start with the B.
The B is supposed to be the first thing.
It is.
I think 99% of the time where people mess up is they put that at the very end.
They do.
And they don't work on themselves. I ask all the time for the people in the organization. There's one particular person, not going to say names or even gender, and they always ask, like, why am I not getting where I want to go? And I said, what have you done for yourself as a leader? What have you done for yourself as far as motivation? What have you done for yourself as inspiration? What have you done for yourself on self-skills, self-growth? What have you done there to learn to manage money better?
Where
the answer is constantly, well, I don't really like those things, Harrison.
That's right.
Well, you know what? I don't like them either because it annoys me that I am literally, my body is a workshop. I am constantly, physically, spiritually, mentally working on myself. And it's a mess in here, guys. What you may see as a perfect life is a mess. But I'm working on it. My shirt should constantly say work in progress.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like there's days where I show up like a leader. There's days where I show up not so much. But I'm working on it.
That's right.
I know there's a problem. I know there's a gap. And until we figure that gap out, I'm never going to get to go do the next thing so that I can have whatever lifestyle that I'm looking for in the future.
Yeah, it's like I saw this the other day and I went, oh, step on my toes, will you? And they were talking about like, I'm going to mess this up, but basically it was like, what's the myth that you don't like or whatever? Basically, or what are you mad at? And it was like, that I've got to get up every day and work out every day for the rest of my life.
It sucks.
And you're like, that's true. Like, I want to do it for like a little bit and then just have the results. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. And the moment you quit, those results go the other way. You have to, your body is
time doesn't stop moving.
Yeah.
So even if you're like, well, I'm gonna, because for a long time I didn't understand that, or like you're the saying, about time, because you're like, so when you think, well, I've reached this, I feel good. The thing is, time keeps moving. So by standing still, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
But absolutely, like, so when you find yourself in a spot and you feel like you're not winning, what questions are you asking yourself? And also understand that success looks like a lot of not winning.
It does. It's crazy. I've struggled with this for the last 6 months probably. So my role changed in the company, 3-4 months ago. And so now I'm still in sales. So just anybody who says Harrison doesn't sell real estate anymore, it's not true. But I did hire a lot of my job out. So I'm working on the real estate business from 9 to 12. And then I go work out every single day. I'm back, I'm showered, I'm ready to roll for my afternoon appointments at 2. And I don't have a 9 to 5. I work until. So some days that's 3 or 4. Some days that's midnight. It was a lot of midnight this week. And so I'm doing things differently, and I was not feeling productive. And so I got on my whiteboard upstairs, and I went through my last 2 weeks of appointments, and I went through my last 2 weeks of productivity, and I wrote down financially what every single appointment meant, and I added those together. Holy cow. I will share this on the podcast. I said I wasn't going to share it, but I'm going to share it. Do you know how much money I've generated for the organization? This is just THLT and its agents. And this is a gross revenue. So this will be, some of this money will be split between agents, but these are appointments that I procured, appointments that I lead generated, ads that I put out that brought in money to the team. But I'm going to be sharing this with agents and the people who work. $122,000 is what I have personally generated in the last 14 days.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
Well, this is the cool part. That's why numbers matter. That's why you have to write and document those things down, because so often we forget the wins.
I'm about to be an asshole. Someone posted, so there is a company that likes to follow my social medias and then just post the antithesis of whatever I post, right? And so we posted a class the other day, and it was, I was like, hey, I'm really thankful. Like, this is what the company's doing right now. Like, over 100 listings, over 80 pendings. Like, and that's huge for a company our size, right? We're keeping up with the companies that are 10 times our census. And, the next company posted, like, here's our meeting. Numbers don't matter. I'm like, well, number one, the reason you want to talk about numbers is because they're sad. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't own a business.
Numbers is the language of business.
If you do not know your numbers as a business owner, you are failing. I'm acquiring a business right now. The business owner is a really nice guy. I like him personally. But the business isn't doing as well as it could because he's not studying his numbers. And that's where me and my acquisitions team are going to go in there and kill it, because we are studying the numbers. Like, I just in the last 10 minutes got a text message from one of our operators that gave me a full spreadsheet of and broke down the last 8 months of their productivity. And they don't know where their profits are coming from. They don't know where their losses are coming from. We're analyzing all of that before we even buy the business.
And it's so, and the thing is if you're somebody that has a business and you're listening to this and you're like, well, how do I analyze the numbers? Shoot us a message. I will show you. I will help. Because the thing is it is a skill that most of us don't learn, or don't even know to learn it, and it eats our lunch. And so,
and people hide from it. I had a call from a business owner.
We've all hidden from it at some point. I promise you, because it's like it's we don't know what or how, and then you look at it, and it's easier to just bury your head in the sand. Or absolutely.
Yeah, there's a local business owner that I do a lot of business with, and they called me. This was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they were in tears. And they said, Harrison, I think I'm messing up. And I was like, what's wrong? And they told me what their sales were. And I said, okay, well, based on what your margins are supposed to be, you should have made this much money this year. How much have you made? They went, I don't know.
Well, not only that, sometimes it's like, this is what you should have made, or this is what you could have made. How much money is in their checking account? Well, I don't know. Well, how's your, how much does it cost for you every month to just break even? I don't know. That's a terrible feeling.
Right.
It sucks so bad.
So they disclosed to me, they were like, I said, how much money's in the checking account? And they said, I don't know. I said, why do you not know how much money's in your checking account? They said, I'm afraid to look.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, look, you're not alone.
No, not at all.
And they looked at me. They were
very
like,
common.
Yeah. They said, what do you mean I'm not alone? I said, I'll share something with you. It's pretty personal. It was 3 months ago. I had made a ton of investments all at one time. I probably overextended myself, even though the top end potential for all these investments was stupid. And they are, and I'm reaping the benefits, right? I'm about to have a crazy month when all this stuff closes. It's about to be stupid. I'm super happy about it. But it put me in a bad spot where I was having to worry.
If something would have fallen or something would have,
If one more apple fell from the tree, I was about to have to go into financial debt with the business for the first time since, like, THLT runs debt free. We don't owe anybody anything. And I just put myself in a bind, and I had paralysis. I could not look at my checking account. I didn't look at it for 2 months. And you can't operate a business that way, just to be clear. But that was, look, guys, you're not alone. Like, every business owner deals with depression. Every business owner deals with that paralysis where sometimes you just go, I just need to put my head in the sand, and I don't know if there's money there or not. And I know that's an unhealthy behavior. Like, how do I even know that my payroll checks were going to hit, right?
Yeah. But it is, knowing and doing are two separate things. I'm working with a business owner right now that fabulous business, makes lots of money. But whenever I looked at the P&L, and they have a P&L, which was already like way ahead of most people. Yeah. But it wasn't categorized in such a way that they could see, okay, I've spent this percentage on my marketing. I spent this percentage on this. I did this. So you can't make smart business decisions, but if you can't see the percentages, because you don't know, did I spend way too much money in marketing and I'm not getting the returns, or am I not spending enough? Because a lot of times where I see people when they have company that they're like, they typically are either underspending in getting new business or employees. Yeah. And they're potentially spending too much in their personal world. But you don't know that if you, and again, that is a skill. That is not something that we're born with. You may, just like you had to like learn how to be a realtor, you had to learn how to be a carpenter, electrician, a zoologist. You have to learn that. So that's where when I say like, get a coach, find somebody that can say, here, let me do this to your QuickBooks. Okay, these are the percentages we're going to look at. Okay, now that we can look at them, now we can make decisions on what you're doing to keep you out of holes, into next, and all those types of things. So it's just super important. And don't beat yourself up because you're not there. Because I think a lot of times we don't ask for help soon enough because we don't want people to think that we're wrong or we don't know. All of us have been there. Yeah. There's not a business person. There's not a business coach. There's nobody in the world. If you haven't been there, you're gonna get there one day. Like, it's just, it's part of it, and it's not a negative thing. It's just part of the business. So, talk to somebody, find out. Another thing that people don't look at, and I think this is probably the largest thing they're not looking at, is they'll say that their business is failing, and then I go, how many of your personal expenses are you running through your business? And that was the first question I asked that other person, and they went, I said, I'm going to guess the number is high. Yeah. Don't say that your business isn't working. You're not managing your money correctly. Well, that's what I mean. So like even now, this is like, there's a difference between what you can write off and what is a business, and what, so like, again, that's when we look at your numbers. I'm going to say, look, most people are P&L. It is set up for your accountant to file your taxes. Great. And we want that. And we want you to write it off. And we want you to write off everything that's legally allowed to be written off, right? For sure. But we also want a P&L, and it's the same P&L. It doesn't have to be separate. We want a P&L that we call something that's below the line and above the line, so that we can say, okay, like if I were to sell this business, they don't know, and I'm being funny here, but they don't have to have Botox to run this business. So if you're they may not have a $120,000 truck. That's right. Like, so if your accountant says you can write it off, that's between you and your accountant. Yeah. But you don't, so because heck, let's say that you're a realtor in New York, it might mean that you might need to have Botox. I don't know. But, because of it, there's differences. So I'm just saying, like, you want to know those things so that you can make smart decisions. And that's the biggest thing. That's what we talk about. Now, this is the other thing, though. This is also what happens is sometimes you think you have to be the one that does the inputting and then you get busy. No. That's not the case. But you need to make sure there's a system there so that you can interpret the numbers. You can see what the numbers mean. So it's just a big deal. So on that note, that's all I got for today.
I'm good.
Okay. So if you have questions, comments, we'd love to hear from you guys. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. It makes a world of difference. And again, remember, there's no charge for subscribing. So like it, subscribe it, share it with somebody that you think this may help. Drop us a comment. Would love to hear from you. One day we need to, if we get enough comments, we'll just read them out loud on the podcast. All right. Peace out.
Let's go. That was the best high five yet.
Oh, hey, Bruno.